All right, welcome back, everybody. We're back for another NASCAR race, a fourth race in 4 nights, second Cup race in those 4 nights. Things have been going pretty good here since the return of racing. We're going to talk to Alsco 500 tonight, Charlotte Motor Speedway. Joining me, as always, Dane. How's it going tonight? This afternoon, I guess, for some.
Yeah, going great. Ready to dodge some more weather tonight.
Yeah, no doubt. We were just kind of talking there offline, and you were saying it looks like it maybe clears up by 8:30 Eastern.
Yeah, it's looking something like that. I mean, I know it's like a tropical storm. It's actually I live in Virginia, so it's heading up our way right now. And it's going to be here all night, but looks like it's going to clear out of Charlotte by around 8:30 to 9, somewhere in there. And if they want to drive the track for a couple hours and go racing, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm just going to confirm that these guys that are in the chat here asking questions can see everything. Oh, there we go. We got just kind of waiting to see if anyone was watching to see if I shared the right link. The way YouTube changed all this, I'm never sure if people are watching or not until someone says, "Hey, how's it going? You guys are looking handsome tonight." So we're good to go. We're good to go. So one thing I was looking at that I wanted to bring up here. First of all, I guess before I even get into the race, the pricing for this is pretty crazy. It's the first time in a while, I guess, we've seen DraftKings actually go ahead, and we've never really had the starting order before pricing has came out in the past. So, like for instance, Jimmy Johnson, he got a penalty, failed post race inspection, ended up getting dead last race on Sunday. He's going to start 40th. Clint Boyer's going to start 39th. So, like those two guys are number 1 and 2 on DraftKings in terms of pricing. Same with guys like we got Bubba Wallace at 8,300 because he's starting 38th. Then we've got Busch, Kozlowski, Elliott, and Truex. They're all over 9,400, starting 15th and back because of their high starts in the whole inverted qualifying order this week. Is this something that you like, this pricing? I've seen mixed reviews so far.
It definitely makes it a little tougher to build lineups, but what I'm interested to see is if we get a lot of duplicated lineups again. We've got that. Well, we got it last night in the trucks, big time for me at least, and then Sunday was not as bad, but it was pretty duplicated as well. But I think there's some plays that are everybody's going to agree are underpriced, and it's going to be interesting to see if guys pivot around those.
Yeah, for sure. Like, there's so many ways to build. Like, it felt weird highlighting plays on the sheet for this race just simply because it's kind of hard not to like any of those top, what would it be here, top 7 guys, like down to Truex. Even Kevin Harvick below that is good value there as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how people go about their builds. I mean, if you want to build a balanced lineup, I think you can do that tonight. But I think for the most part, we're going to see a lot of stars and scrubs. So we know the top guys. We know who we're really going to like up there. I'm not going to ask you who your favorite 2 or 3 are at the moment because there's so many good plays. I'm more interested in your punt plays. So I guess let's just go like 6,500, which is DeBenedetto and down. Who your favorite guys are in terms of punting to try and get 2 or 3 of those big guys in there.
So it seems like maybe we are going to differ a little bit tonight. So
Oh, right
I'm
on.
all about the balance build. So
Okay.
I'm not. One of my builds that I've been toying around with does dip down into the 6K range. I'm a little worried about dipping all the way down to that 50 low 5K range. And I've been your tool, the matrix has been a great help in comparing the 2v2s and things like that, to compare the balance versus the stars and scrubs. But I am leaning toward a more balanced build. If I do need to go down here, which it looks like I will in some lineups at least, Ty Dillon I think is going to be pretty chalky. Thing I worry about with him is his upside. I mean, what really is his upside? 18th to 20th? Can he really get us a top 15? And does that pay off for you?
Yeah, Ty Dillon would be my favorite. of the group down below. I'm kind of into that stars and scrubs, so yeah, it's kind of good. You're going to be talking a little bit more balanced than me. I'm going to be talking a little more stars and scrubs the way my lineups are set up so far, at least on DraftKings to this point, is stars and scrubs for me. But Ty Dillon definitely stands out, and I agree with you. He is an 18th to 20th upside. I don't think we're going to, unless something crazy happens, like a rain shortened race, or maybe a crash that gets him through near the end or something like that. But if things go as planned, I think his upside kind of is that 18th to 20th. We've seen him finish 26th here on Sunday, 23rd, 21st, and 21st in 3 races before that. So I think that's kind of his upside. And you mentioned the Matrix. That's something new for anyone that's watching that isn't RotoPro's DFSR or a Patreon member. It's something I put out here this past weekend. And really what it does is just look at every driver in his starting position and then give you a look at what fantasy points that driver would get in every single possible finishing position. So it takes into account your place differential points as well as your finishing position points. And then I've gone ahead and added a projected laps led on there as well. You'll see that my projections are on there. If you want to make your own projections in terms of laps led and see how it all plays out, just go up to the top, hit file, create your own copy, and when you do that, it's going to give you editing ability on the sheet, and then you can go in and clear my projected laps led. You can see at the top I've got 208. That's how many laps are in the race. So just make sure that your total equals 208, and then you can kind of see how it plays out. So I think with that stars and scrubs, I said Ty Dillon, kind of going down that 21st. We said 18th to 20th, so that kind of gives him a range of about 25 to 33 points, somewhere in there, given that he doesn't have any fast laps or laps led. For 6,300, I'm willing to take that. And my big question for you, I guess it's more of a question for me that I'll answer myself, because you're kind of not doing as much stars and scrubs as me tonight, is I want to know how many points you're looking for out of, say, guys, not so much Ty Dillon, but I'm talking guys in the sub 6K. My super stars and scrubs, guys that I'm looking at are like Joey Gase, Corey LaJoie, and Brendan Poole are 3 that I'm looking at. And I'm really only looking for about 18 to 20 DraftKings points if I'm going to be running those guys, so that I can really capitalize and get maximum place differential and possibly Dominator points from 1 or 2, possibly even 3 of those top guys. How many would you say would be a fair number to shoot for?
I think somewhere right in there. I was going to say 20. The thing that worries me a little bit about, and why I am leaning toward that balanced build, is the less laps in this race. Can we really see 3 Dominators? Because if you say Bowman or Byron leads the first portion of this race, and say another guy, if you're trying to jam in 2 of the guys that aren't Jimmy or Clint, say Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott, Truex, if you get 2 of those guys in there, the big question that you are going to have to answer for yourself or everybody is what constitutes them paying off their price tag. Do they need to lead laps or do they not? And I think that's where do you need to go superstars and scrubs comes into play, and what you're wanting to get out of those scrubs.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. So just kind of what I was looking at, Joey Gase, something I really paid attention to for this race and added it to the sheet. I did a bunch of work on the back-end database for the sheet. You may not notice some of the things, but average running position, something I added to track type history, current form, season form. So looking at the 3 races since we've been back to racing, 2 at Darlington, 1 here at Charlotte. I'm just going to look at the leaders. You'll see them at the bottom of the screen in average finish position. Something else I've been looking at for this race is actually looking at the differential between average finish position and maybe average running position. So looking at guys who are maybe overperforming or possibly underperforming compared to their finish. Well, last race was definitely a crazy one, as we've seen. Keselowski's average finish running position for the whole race was 11th. He ended up winning. You see a lot of drivers like that, but just looking at the last 3 races, Kevin Harvick's got a 3.3 average finish, 8.3 running position. That tells me he's maybe overperforming a little bit. versus on the other side, looking at Alex Bowman, who's been 13.3 average finish, but he's got the best average running position over those last 3 races out of any driver. He's got 205 laps led in there as well. That's why I have him as my top Dominator. I think he can get by his teammate Byron. I imagine Bowman's probably going to start on the outside, not 100% there, but I would assume. I think he can get out front early and probably lead the most laps, kind of that early Dominator. And I love the value for an early Dominator at only 8,700. So he's definitely in my core plays. I think Truex can probably get up there. It's kind of hard to go after him. Like you said, there's only 208 laps. I think Bowman's going to be by far the top Dominator, but we could see guys coming from like Eric Jones, Martin Truex Jr. possibly coming from 15th and leading late. He's been really good here. Kyle Busch, I don't see him as a top Dominator coming from 17th. He just hasn't shown that kind of speed yet this year. But there's going to be some guys that mix it up, maybe in that 15 to 20 range. But Bowman's definitely my top guy there. So that's one thing I'm using the sheet for, looking at that current form, and then just season form as well, looking at the difference between average run and average finishing position. Who's like, in terms of Dominator, if you had to pick one or two, I agree there's not going to be 3. Who's your top 2?
I don't know what the deal is today. We're on completely different wavelengths. I mean, I love Truex.
This is good.
So we're right there. We're right there together with Truex. I love him. I think that's a stupid price. He should be up in the 10K range for sure.
Yeah.
He has just as much place differential upside or almost as some of those guys starting near 20th, and he looked great Sunday. I'm not going to say any more about him. I actually like, for tournaments, I think I like Byron more than Bowman. I think everybody is going to go maybe with that thought and what they've seen over the last few races, and maybe there's the pivot there is Byron, and just hope he's able to stay out front and that they have just the same cars, and just hope he can dominate the first portion of this race and then finish in the top 5 or 10. That's where I am. Other than that, I love Chase Elliott again. 9,700 is a good price for him. I like to stay under that 10K range, honestly, tonight. I have limited lineups, and I think the highest I'm going is Chase. I like some of those guys up there. I just can't justify, in tournaments at least, paying price tags for guys like Jimmy and especially Clint.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a lot of Clint on FanDuel, like Clint and Jimmy on FanDuel, just because of their prices and possible place differential upside. I think they both got top 10 upside, more Jimmy than Clint. But Clint was another one that stood out for me. He's got an average finish position of 26.3 in the 3 races since we've been back to racing. Been in some crashes, so that he's got an average run position of 15.7. That's a 10.6 differential, so that's pretty big. I think he can get back up there, top 15, top 10, probably upside 8 to 10 for him. I think Jimmy's more that top 5 upside, 3rd to 6 probably somewhere is his upside. So I definitely will have a share of both of that elite place differential upside. Like I said, a little bit more on FanDuel. Clint's only 9,000 on FanDuel. That's just super cheap. And then same with Bubba Wallace. He's only 5K on FanDuel versus 8,300 on DK. It's not as much reliant on place differential points on FanDuel because you get half a point versus 1 point for that place differential. Finishing position is a little more, but Bubba's starting 38th. I think he's at least a 25th place car. And just going to go back to the matrix here. Is something I was asked earlier with Bubba. Scroll up and find him. Yeah, so even if he's a 25th place car today, that gives you 32 DraftKings points. I think he's maybe got upside of 20th, somewhere in there, I would say, which gives you like 40 to 42. I think that's enough. Maybe that's kind of pushing it on DraftKings at 8,300, but it's definitely in play on FanDuel. I mean, that matrix isn't for FanDuel points, but that kind of gives you a look into where he doesn't really need to really overperform anything that he's already been doing so far this year, right around that 25th average finishing position on the season. So I think he can definitely get up to that 25th position and give you that 13 place differential.
Yeah, I'm out of the guys starting back there or at 38th to 40th. Out of those 3, obviously the price is way better, but I think he does give you that 20 to 25th place upside, and that's fine for his price. Before we jump into that mid range, I'm going to go back down to the 6K range and compare three of the guys. My three favorites in that range is Ty Dillon, Priest, and Matt DiBenedetto. On the surface, you would say fade DiBenedetto, but then you kind of compare if we think Ty Dillon's upside is around that 18th to 20th position, and you're looking around that 33 points. To compare where the other two need to finish to get that, Priest has got to finish 16th, and then DiBenedetto's got to finish
like 9th, 10th.
Yeah.
Which is doable.
Right around that 8 to 10 range, which is definitely doable. He was running. I think the only reason he got up front on Sunday was because of the strategy call. He was going to, I think, finish around 11th or 12th before that final caution, and then that dropped him back some. But especially in tournaments, everybody's going to be on Ty. I could see going to Benedetto and just hoping for around a 10th place finish. Obviously, that's definitely a tournament play and maybe a large field tournament play at that. But my favorite two are definitely Ty and Priest.
No, you made a really good point there, using the matrix to kind of compare where those two drivers, one who is starting inside the top 10, one who's starting 25th, and kind of compare where they need to finish, what you think their upsides are. So you make a great point that Ty Dillon's going to be heavily owned, I think, down here. Because of that, say he's 50% in GPPs, you're probably going to get to Benedetto, I'm thinking, at like 10 to 15%. And I don't think a 10th place finish from Benedetto is out of the question at all. I think his upside is even 5th to 8th place. I think he has more upside than Ty on a points per dollar basis. And if he's going to be half the ownership or more, I think that's a great pivot off Ty Dillon. I was kind of almost to the full fade of DiBenedetto. I didn't quite make him red on the sheet yet, and you'll notice that today as well. I put some red guys on there. Those are just guys I'm not playing at all. Green are kind of my core guys. Blue are the secondary, GPP only, and then yellow are just some values. So Ty Dillon's my favorite value as well. I think that's the only thing we really agree on here today, which is good. We can kind of see both sides. People can kind of see both sides of it. I like Gase just because I was looking at his last 3 races since they came back. He's got 2 top 30 finishes. 36th at Charlotte wasn't great. He finished, I think, like 20 laps down on Sunday. So I think he's got that 30th place upside. And looking at the matrix, and his 30th place finish would be worth 20 points. That's kind of what we said we were looking for from these punt plays. I think he could possibly get up to 28. That's right around 24 points. Corey LaJoie, he's starting a little bit more forward at 23rd. He had a pretty good run last week. If he finishes where he's at that 21 points. If he gains any place differential at all, he's kind of looking at that 25 plus. And then Brendan Poole starting 30th. I think, if he finishes right around where he starts, he'd be my least favorite because he finishes 30th. He's only going to get 14. To get to that 20, he's going to have to get up to like 27th, 26th place to be able to hit there. So I would rate the punt plays kind of looking at sub 6K. Gase, LaJoie, and then Brendan Poole would be my third. Ty Dillon's definitely my favorite value in that sub 7K range. I'm now on board. You've sold me on Matty D as a great GPP play. And then even Priest, 22nd. What do you think Priest's upside is? Where do you think his finished position upside is?
See, that's the thing when I compare him and Ty. I think their upside is almost identical, and Ty is starting a few spots further back. Maybe Priest can get 16th to 17th, maybe. I just don't see him getting much higher than that, but anything can happen, like we saw with 2 laps to go.
Yeah.
He could be running 20th and have a caution and jump ahead with a strategy call or something and finish 15th.
Yep. And an 18th place finish for both drivers. Not that they both can finish 18th, but if they were to finish 18th, Ty would have 33 points, Priest would have 30, not counting any fast laps or laps led from those guys. So it's very close there. Ty gives you the little bit of a discount. Priest gives you a little bit of a discount, $300. Ty Dillon gives you that 3 more point upside. So it's very close kind of in that range. And then Suarez is sandwiched in the middle, and I think Suarez is going to be higher owned than Priest. to be honest. So I do like Priest and DiBenedetto as your value
I hope.
GPP plays. See, we're off again. You think Suarez will be a little bit lower owned?
I would think, but I do hope he's more owned because I'm not going to be on him for sure.
I've got him in a couple. I see his upside a little bit worse than those two, probably like say 22nd, and that gives him that 28 points. So he's a little bit lacking, but I think he's a great pivot in there as well. Just I think Ty Dillon's going to be super owned out of those four right there in that 6,000 to 6,500. Ty Dillon's going to be at least double all of those guys, I think.
Yep,
and
for sure.
Just gonna
the other interesting range is that 7K and low 8K range. I feel like there's going to be a couple chalk pieces with Newman and maybe even Blaney. I'm not sure, but those are my two favorites. Blaney looked great Sunday. That was nice to see after he wasn't very good at Darlington. Starting at 18th, 7,900. He got a price decrease, right? He was 81.
Yes, yeah.
So a price decrease starting a little further forward than he was, but 18th, if he can, I think he's got top 5 upside in him, which I don't think that's the case with any of the other guys right around this range. Like Kenseth, I think he's got maybe top 10 upside, not top 5. Newman, top 10 to 15.
Yep. Going on those guys, I do like Newman a lot. I think he does have that top 15 upside. He's my favorite play in that 7K. There's a lot of guys I like. Again, Almirola, I think he's a good GPP play. I think there's a chance he can finish, 5th to 8th. I think that's kind of his upside. And that's kind of in that 40, 36, 34 to 40 point range. Newman, he can get that 43 points with a 14th place finish, so I definitely like him the most. He seems to have the highest floor, just because of him starting 27th. I think that's far enough back where he can pick up double-digit place differential points. Tyler Reddick starting 13th. What stood out to me with him, and you kind of think, well, him starting there, he's probably going to be lower owned just because of that, but coming back from racing, he has the, what are we here? Sixth best average finish, 9.7. There's only 6 drivers with an average finish under 10. 2 top 10s in 3 races, and all 3 inside the top 20 since they came back. That is very impressive. The Chevys have shown a ton of speed. It's going to be exciting to see if that plays out again, or if the Toyota start creeping back up there again. And there's a lot of different ways you can go tonight. And one of the questions here was, if I'm not personally playing cash games tonight, I'm playing GPP only. I'm playing 3 max, some single entry, and the 20 max. I'm not sure I'm going to get all 20 max in there. I'm at least going to get 10. But I'm not playing cash games. But if you were playing cash games, I got someone asking, who are your top 2-3 core plays for cash? Well, for myself, if I was playing cash, Ty Dillon, we talked about it. Ty Dillon for sure at his price and fantasy point upside. Ryan Newman as well, both sites. And then, like I said, I like Bowman for that sub 9K price with a chance to lead a lot of laps. And then even Martin Truex Jr., that'd be a 4th one on my list for cash games at 9,400. It's just way too cheap for a guy that's been absolutely dominant here and I think can lead laps and get place differential.
Yeah, same thing. Newman's probably a good cash play. Is there a way you can even jam in Clint and Jimmy? I mean, that's the ultra.
You got a super punt, and you almost got to go like Gase, LaJoie, and Poole. And I think just going with 3 punt plays, it just kills your lineup. It's just there's way too much risk.
Yeah, I think you got to try to find a way to get Jimmy in there in cash. That floor is just massive.
Yeah.
I don't think you jam both of them, but I think you got to find a way to get Jimmy in there. Yeah,
and on FanDuel, I mean, like I said, it's a completely different story in terms of pricing this week. So it is interesting between the two sites. I'm kind of hedging. I mentioned that in chat earlier because I like so many plays. I don't normally highlight like 6 out of the top 7 guys on the pricing on DraftKings, but it's there. They're all in play. So what I've kind of broken it down into is DraftKings plays and FanDuel plays. So like I said, looking at the sheet, I'm just going to sort the price in here and have a look at it one more time. Boyer on FanDuel has to be a FanDuel cash play starting 39th at only 9K. There is at least 11 drivers, 12 drivers that are more expensive than him, and him starting second to last with even at 15th. If you think he's going to finish 15th, I think that's just too low of price and too high points per dollar on FanDuel. Same with Bubba Wallace at 5K. That's way too low a price starting back in 38th. Even if he's only 25th place upside, I think that just gives you a really, really high floor at only 14,000 your salary. Crap, Martin Truex Jr. alone is 14K on FanDuel, so you get two drivers for the price of one, and I think definitely those two drivers have more of a floor than one driver alone, combining them, looking at that price tag. So definitely a way I'm going to go, and it allows you to jam two or three big guys in there as well. But like I said, I'm not playing much cash, actually none at all. The closest thing to cash would be single entry GPPs and some smaller ones for me tonight.
Yep, I'm not playing cash either.
And I'm just going to go through a couple more questions, see if there's any more going on. Love the Matrix. Hit second in two different DK. Oh, that's awesome, Mark. Good job. Yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. Really appreciate this. Love doing these live shows. We're trying to get in as many YouTube shows as possible during this huge stretch. I did post in the Patreon chat as well as the Roto Pros chat the upcoming schedule for NASCAR. I wanted to get your opinion on that. I got really excited. I know it's been out for a bit, but I actually put it on paper and broke it down and got pretty excited today seeing not only do we go to Bristol, which is going to be an awesome Saturday, Sunday this week, but then we go to Atlanta the weekend after. So we get a nice week break in between to, maybe catch our breath in terms of NASCAR content. But then we go to Atlanta. They do trucks and Xfinity the same day, Cup on Sunday. Then the Wednesday following, they go to Martinsville just for Cup only. And then after that, there's a truck race that following Saturday. Starts at 12:30 Eastern, and then there's an Xfinity race in the afternoon, and then a second Xfinity race Sunday morning, and then a Cup race the same day. 4 races in 2 days. How awesome is that?
Holy moly, that's going to be fun. That's going to be awesome.
It's going to be a lot of content.
The only thing in that schedule I'm a little bummed about is Martinsville. I go to both those races there every year, so not being able to go to the first night. Well, the races end at night in the fall, but the first race there that starts at night is kind of a bummer to miss.
Yeah, I thought of you as soon as I seen Martinsville. As soon as it was probably a month or month and a half. I don't know how long this whole COVID thing's been going on, but as soon as they moved Martinsville or kind of canceled the first one, you were the first one I thought of going to those races. So yeah, that's too bad, but maybe in the fall.
Hopefully make it in the fall.
Yep, yeah. Exactly. Playoff race, things will be heating up. It looks like the NASCAR is probably going to get 36 races in. They're talking this wave 2 of COVID, but I'm not. I don't even want to think about it. I don't even want to say that word anymore. I just want to hear the engines. I just want to watch NASCAR. And PGA. PGA's back. Yeah. We're only 2 weeks out from PGA. 3 weeks, I guess, 2.5. So we're getting there as well. So we're going to try and do some PGA shows for you guys too. So if there's no more questions on the NASCAR, we got a little under 2 hours to lineup lock. We're probably, we're not going to see DraftKings move lineup lock back because they're going to try and get this race in. So it's going to go past lineup lock. So definitely get those lineups in. Hit us up in the Roto Pros chat. Hit me up in the DFSR chat or in my Patreon chat if you have any questions leading up to lock. Our skeleton lineups are posted in Roto Pros as well, so go and check that out and make sure to get your copy of the cheat sheet and the new fantasy point matrix and hit me up with any questions you have on that stuff, guys. Thanks for joining me, Dane. Let's go make some lineups and get some green screens, and we'll be back this weekend for some Bristol racing.
Let's do it.
Have a good night, everyone.